Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my co host, my friend, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Tracy, we have a very special guest today. We're going to have a blast. Welcome, Roman. And Roman, would you one more time pronounce your name for me?
No problem. It's not an easy one. Roman Maliszewski.
Okay, I love it. So the future of bars is self-serve. And Roman, the founder of Tapster, the groundbreaking self-serve tap room concept, he's leading the revolution. Roman's story is much more than just opening a bar. It's a leap from Princeton grad to advertising exec to world traveler to beerpreneur. His unique journey combined with his industry knowledge has positioned Tapster at the forefront of a self-serve transformation within the bar industry. This is going to be so much fun. Welcome to the show, Roman.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. Rebecca and I want to hear everything, all about the different facets of your life. But I think that if we just start off with your childhood, we want to hear like the early years. What formed you growing up?
Sure. Thank you. So I was born raised outside of Chicago in a very nice suburb called Hinsdale. My mom's from New York City. My dad is an immigrant from Poland. So he was actually born in a camp at the end of World War II and sponsored by a church. And he grew up then in Iowa after that. So I have an interesting mix of parents. So one grew up very well in New York City, and the other one an immigrant who struggled the whole time. So it's an interesting mix. I love my childhood. I had a blast. It was a very fun, safe time. I was very into sports. I loved playing everything I could get my hands on. And as high school rolled around, I decided that the best course for me was going into Chicago. So even though the high school in my neighborhood was good, I wanted to go to the best school for sports, which happened to be in a very tough neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. So I commuted an hour for high school every day and absolutely loved it. It was a blast. And I think that really formed a lot of who I was, because if I had lived in the bubble that I grew up in, I might not have had an edge and understood the different people in the world that I did by going to high school and understanding that there's people from all different walks of life. And I really learned the value of hard work and dedication and treating people right, no matter who they are or where they're from. That's a huge part of who I am.
I love this story of the combination of your parents, two very different people coming together, falling in love, raising this handsome man who goes on to be not only a sportsman, but a traveler and now a franchisor. So I love that story. And you're right, that diversity that you were raised in definitely gave you opportunities or mindsets that maybe others didn't. But I'm really curious about this sports thing because you left an affluent area of Chicago to go play sports somewhere else. Was it that you were just that passionate about the sport? Because that's big.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, I was so into football and hockey at that time. I mean, that's all I cared about outside of school. That's all I ever did. So I would do summer camps. I would do, multiple travel teams. That was what I really cared about. And so the high school called Mount Carmel was really the best in Chicago. It still is the best school for football and sports in general. I mean, in every level, they're great. And it's an all boys Catholic high school. So I'm on the women's podcast, but it's ironic that I went to the all boys school. So for me, I think it was good just because there was a less of a stress level with trying to impress anybody. You just were focused on your work and your school and your career. And I just met such great people who had, there was no BS. There was, you just who you are. There wasn't cliques. It wasn't like cool kids and not cool kids. It was
Yeah.
kind of, what sport do you play? Okay, that's kind of who you hang out with. But definitely no bullying and no, nothing like that, which really helped me.
That's crazy. Well,
Right.
and when you say distractions, you meant girls, that there was none of that that you had to deal with. So you could focus on your,
Maybe, yeah, yeah. Maybe.
oh
So
my
it was good.
gosh, love it.
So, so what happened next? What happened after that? You graduated high school and then what?
Yeah, after high school, I was fortunate enough to be able to play football at Princeton as well. And I went there and loved it. I played club hockey and football there. I didn't play football all through, but I just, I absolutely loved. I always loved school, so it was just really fun to be there and learning as much as I could and meeting really interesting people again from all over the world and different walks of life. And with my high school background, kind of understanding that you treat everybody the same no matter where they're from and who they are, and it just really allowed me to meet good people there. And Princeton, for whatever it's worth, you'll meet really affluent people, but you'll meet people that aren't from those settings, and they're all great, and you can learn so much from everybody. And I feel like when I was there, it was just I was a sponge, just learning as much as I could from everybody and meeting as many people as I could. And I really loved college. I made great friends. I learned a ton. I majored in U.S. history. I was pre-med for 2 years and then decided to stick just with history. And I loved it. It was a great time in my life.
Wow.
Such a beautiful campus. Also, Roman. My youngest brother went to Princeton, and we are not affluent, so he was one of those that brought a worldly experience, having been born abroad. All of us. Beautiful campus. I love your passion as you kind of go. I love sports. I love my school. I love learning. I love this. So you have this passion that just seems to exude. So okay, we went to Princeton. We did what we needed to do. We played sports. We got our degree. Next, do you go to work? What do you do at that point?
Yeah. So after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do really. So I knew where I wanted to be before what I wanted to do. So I'm from the Midwest. I went to school on the East Coast, and I'd never lived on the West Coast. I'd only visited it once. So I said, I kind of looked at a map and said, I want to live in California. It was kind of in my mind. And there was a couple cities you could live in: LA, San Diego, or San Francisco. And something in my mind said San Francisco was it. And I think obviously there was the tech boom going on there, the .com kind of boom was happening. But I was more just interested in trying a new city and seeing what's out there. So I moved to San Francisco right after graduation without a job, without a career, not knowing kind of anybody. And I started networking with Princeton grads as well as family friends and Chicago friends, and landed at a great digital advertising agency. And this is 2000 now. So on the idea of putting ads on websites was so new and so groundbreaking. I thought it was so cool. So I worked for an ad agency called Moda Media, which is now part of Digitas. It's a huge Publicis owned company. But I did media buying for a while there for about 4 years, and clients like Microsoft and Intel, and it was just fun to be around young, interesting people that are doing crazy things in technology, at least from my perspective. And a lot of money, right? A lot of people were starting to put more money into online advertising, which now is just a multi-billion-dollar industry. So I remember in the beginning getting spreadsheets for doing buys on Google, where I'd get an Excel document with a couple lines, how many words you'd get for each. And now obviously it's all automated and crazy, but it was fun to see that and fun to see the advent of Facebook and Twitter and everything from San Francisco. I loved it. And when I was out there, I also had a lot of free time, right? So I didn't have to do school. So when I was out of work, I didn't know what my next thing was going to be. So I'd always loved music. I loved the drums, and I decided I'm going to take up the drums. So I started practicing every day for a year, and I couldn't stop. So I joined a couple bands, and I played my whole time. 10 years in San Francisco, I played music, and I loved it. I was outside a lot, so I did a lot of biking and swimming, and I ended up doing a couple triathlons when I was there. So I did Escape from Alcatraz, which is where you jump off a boat at Alcatraz and swim in, and then do the rest. And that was just phenomenal too. But the career side, I really was in the ad buying space, and then I switched to ad sales, which was a lot more fun. I love people, I always have. So meeting more people, being out there talking and selling product was a lot of fun. So I sold ads in San Francisco for another 6 years before moving back to Chicago. Just again, I've kind of always followed my heart and kind of where do you feel like you want to go? And so I was back in Chicago for a wedding at one point, and I had time to myself after the wedding. I was walking around downtown, and again, I grew up in the suburbs, and I didn't know the downtown area as much, so I was walking around, and there was a bike race around the city, like a track race where they were flying around, and I thought it was so cool. It was a beautiful day. It was the fall, and my heart was just pounding, saying like, you need to live here. You need to try this. And so I moved back. I was fortunate enough to have my company transfer me to Chicago. So I stayed working in online ads in Chicago for another 3 years. So I just got back to meeting friends from high school and meeting friends from grade school. And it was such a nice transition for me to do that.
That's amazing. The whole journey is so incredible. When I hear you talk, excuse me, when I hear you talk, one word keeps popping in my mind, and that's fearless. Do you consider yourself to be fearless, like a fearless explorer? Do people describe you as fearless?
I really appreciate you saying that. I feel like that's really it makes me proud, because I do believe that I'm fearless. I just don't approach life with any restrictions. Like, if there's something I want, I'm going to go for it. And even if I know I'm not going to get there right away, I know I will work harder than anybody I know to get there. And so bringing that passion to it, and the complete lack of fear really helps me, because I just don't see boundaries. I see just hurdles. How can I get there and learn and get to the point I want to? So yeah, sometimes I get crazy, but I like fearless better. I think that's a little better. So but yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you talk about following your heart, or actually hearing your heart and then following it. I wonder if this passion cancels out the fear in some way. And that's almost what it sounds like is happening. We're going to have to ponder that. We're going to have to do some research on that. As a behavioral scientist, I want to know if the two kind of cancel each other out, where if fear then nullifies passion, and passion nullifies fear, or at least dampens it a little bit. So, okay, we're back in Chicago. You've been transferred, all that worked out. We still haven't got to how you got from there to franchising. So tell us that part of the journey.
Sure. So I'm in Chicago 3 years. I'm still doing advertising. At the time, I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't own an apartment. I was renting. I had gotten to the point where I wasn't proud of what I was doing for work, right? I still played music. I love that. But when people asked me what I did, I was kind of like, I'm in advertising. It was a point that it wasn't proud for me to talk about. And so I knew something had to change. I knew I had to step back and say, I'm going to figure this out. So I left the last job I was with, and I put all my stuff in storage. And I decided I'm taking a full year of my life from New Year's Eve to New Year's Eve to travel. I'd never taken more than 7 days, 5 days off the whole time I had worked. And so I said, this is worth it. So I put my stuff in storage. I left for Cartagena, Colombia on New Year's, 2013.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I didn't know anybody. I just went there, and I decided to travel all of South America. I did everything from Colombia, Peru, Machu Picchu, Uruguay, Brazil. And then I flew over to Europe, and then I did all of Europe, and then a little of Africa, and then I flew back to the U.S. and drove the whole U.S. But I had to buy my first car first, so I never owned a car. I lived in cities, so I bought my first Ford Windstar minivan, took all the seats out, put my drums in there, put some golf clubs, bicycle, and just started driving around the whole US. And as I was driving, I was staying with friends and camping and pulling over and playing my drums on the side of the road. And as I visited friends, they always wanted to take me to their local bar or their local club or whatever that was cool to them. And I noticed a trend that was always activity-based bars, right? So there was a bocce bar, there was a game bar. This is when barcades were kind of starting. So there's a lot of games you could go in and play, arcade games. There was Pop-A-Shot, stuff like that. So I really liked that concept, and it started in my mind something that, okay, this could be something I'm into, because obviously I'm not the sit around and do nothing guy. And even when I go out with my friends, I don't want to sit around. Like, I want to do something, have an activity. And so I got in my head that I wanted to do something like that. And there was a bar in Chicago I always remembered when I was taking clients out in Chicago that had taps at the tables. So you'd sit down at a booth. There was 2 taps in the booth. You'd have to tell the server, hey, can we open the taps? But these would be like Bud Light and tequila. So you're sitting there taking shots of tequila right at the booth, which I thought was really fun, and entertaining. My vision was really what's behind me, right? So a tap wall where you can walk up and try different things. So I found out about the company that does the technology. It's called Pour My Beer. And I went out to the founder, who was luckily outside of Chicago, Josh Goodman, and we sat, we had lunch. I told him about my vision, everything I wanted to do. I told him about my travels. And he had said to me, not only are we moving from the table to the wall, but that's our whole business plan and our model. And you're not working right now, Roman. Why don't you come and sell with me? You've been in sales. So I didn't really think about it too much. I said, this is what I want to do. So I start working for Josh at Pour My Beer. So I was selling the technology, learning from bar owners what's going on. And at the same time, I'm living in Chicago. I'd never worked at a bar. I'd never worked at a restaurant. I didn't know how it worked. So in the same time I'm working for Pour My Beer, I got jobs as a bouncer, a bus back, a bar back, a server. I mean, I went from this ad executive to cleaning ketchup off tables. And it was so humbling, but also amazing, because I learned so much about the industry and what the staff doesn't like and what they do like. And I think that really, really helped me just getting in the weeds. And again, I think my background helped because I approach everybody the same. So I didn't look at any of the servers differently than I look at a CEO of a company. It was just nice. And I made a lot of really good friends, and I had some funny experiences too, breaking up fights in Chicago in some bar at 2 a.m. It's really random to find yourself there at the age of 36. You're just like, what is going on? But it kind of all had a goal in mind of where I wanted to go. So I did that for years, and then built up my business plan while I was doing all these jobs, and got some friends to invest and opened the first Tapster in 2017 in Wicker Park in Chicago.
Wow. I love this story, Tracy.
Amazing.
I'm like on a roller coaster with you, Roman. And whether you're up or down, there's a smile, and there's this joy, and there's this passion that you have. It's just beautiful to watch, and you see everything as an opportunity, whether it's just an opportunity to learn, right? Every moment is something that's precious to you, and you do it all with a smile. So when did we start franchising? What you opened this first location. At what point did you say, this could be a franchise?
Yeah, no, I never thought about it. I was just like, open this bar, see what happens. There was no future. It was like, this is my first goal, see if it works. And every week for the first couple months that I opened the first Tapster, somebody would ask me, is this a franchise? Are you part of a franchise? And I never thought about franchise. I didn't know anything about it. To me, it was only McDonald's was a franchise. So I kind of took it as somewhat of an insult. I was like, well, no, this is unique. This is me. This is my idea. And so I quickly turned the corner on that one, though, and realized this is a really good sign. And this is something I should think about. So I started talking to some franchise attorney in Chicago about, hey, what are the steps I can do to get to this, to at least be able to franchise? I don't have the time to do it, but let's do it. So I got all the paperwork done, the FDD, operations manual. I kind of got that laid up and ready about a year after opening my first one. But I sat on it. I maybe put a link on the website, but didn't think about the infrastructure needed for doing it. So I was just like, okay, I'm a franchisor now. And, I'd opened the second Tapster in Chicago in 2018, and then the third in Seattle in 2020, which obviously was pushed out a little because of COVID. But the same year in 2020, I got a call from a regular from the second Tapster in Lincoln Park who had said he moved back to Cleveland. He was a regular at Tapster Lincoln Park. He loved it. He really wanted to bring that to Cleveland. And so I worked with him as the lone franchisor who really didn't know too much about, I knew my plan, what I had done to get Tapster where it was. So I just figured I'm going to give him my whole book, tell him how to do it, help him from the first day. I was so available to him. And he opened in 2023. He opened his first one. So it was really exciting to have that be, and he's such a perfect franchisee. And since then I've learned about, the quality of your franchisee is so important. And he epitomizes that. He's a young guy. He's about 27. He's passionate. He loves Tapster, and he's focused on community, which is what I'm really trying to do here too, which is a community center where people can come and alleviate their stress, and not just, hey, let's get wasted or let's drink, because we have non-alcoholic and stuff like that. It's more, you don't have to worry about when your next drink is coming. You don't have to worry about reserving seats because there's always seats available. It takes out all that stress. You kind of take your time, you drink what you want to, you sample things. And he gets that, doing trivia nights, hosting different, startups in his space who are selling, purses and jewelry, and letting them sell out of there. And so he's been a fantastic person to work with. So that was kind of the first franchisee. And then I opened, after that, I'm still going on my corporate path of trying to open as many as I can. So my mom now lives in New Jersey, and my dad is in the Baltimore area. And so I wanted to be near them as they're getting older and I am. So Philadelphia really was a perfect in-between spot. And also a great market for bars and young people, and there's a bunch of colleges and their sports teams. So I started really looking in Philadelphia to get this one open, and opened this one last year in August. And at the same time, I guess just to rewind a little, when I lived in Seattle to open that Tapster, I met a friend of a friend who had lived out there. When you move somewhere, sometimes your friends say, oh, my buddy lives there, you guys should hang out. And I don't think too much of it, but I'll entertain it. Let's have a drink. Come to Tapster. So I met this guy, Dave, who was a doctor, and he came to Tapster. We talked, and then in the years I lived there, we became close. I would visit his house. We would hang out. We spent a Christmas together. And then he got a job offer in Lexington, Kentucky. So he moved there, and obviously the cost of living in Lexington is a lot different than Seattle. So he sold his house for a lot, bought a much bigger house for less. So he had a bunch of extra cash, and he had said, I'd really like to do a Tapster in Lexington. So he and I kind of worked through the franchise paperwork as well. So again, me just by myself working with him. And I told him, as you review the FDD, which you both know, but I didn't, you need a franchise lawyer, not just a regular lawyer, to review this FDD and this legal documents, which is a huge thing. So I told him, you really need a franchise specialist to look at this, because we can't just discuss it. We got to be objective. So he says, funny enough, my stepbrother is a franchise lawyer. So we go through, it's so weird. So we go through this whole process, and I'm talking to his stepbrother's talking to my lawyer. We're going through the whole negotiation. As we're about to sign, his stepbrother reaches out to me separately and says, hey, I'd like to talk to you when this is done, because I really like what you're doing, and I want to be involved. And so funny enough, Mike is now part of franchise community group, and he is now part of I've signed on with him. So he is my franchise growth team. He has they have over 100 years of experience between everybody on his team. And, it's Mike Weinberger is his full name. And he's just a great guy, super kind. we kind of felt very familiar right away because, you know, friend of a friend is kind of your friend, and he's been great. And, you know, in this industry, which I'm sure you both know very well, you have to trust people. That trust level is so huge, especially with the brand that you're passionate about. And I have a lot of trust in Mike and what he's doing and what he's done. And so it's all been fate, right? It's all kind of been these things
Yeah.
randomly coming together. But back to kind of your point about connections and being good to people, because you never know when that next person is going to be a huge part of your life, and treating everybody the same and with respect, because even if you're negotiating with them, they can end up being on your team. And so that's kind of how it worked out. And I think that goes back to my childhood, which is you might be from a wealthy suburb, but you don't know who you're going to meet, you know, in this school in the tough neighborhood in Chicago that might be your best friend. And so that really helped me to where I'm at now. And so they've come on. Yeah, sorry.
I have a burning question now. Rebecca asked me
Yeah.
earlier off camera, do you have now I have a burning question. So it's like you've got the Midas touch, even your shirt is gold. Everything that you touch, you know, turns to gold. Like it just sounds like you have a knack for pioneering, being at the right place in the right time, connecting with people, really noticing opportunities. But something that Rebecca said earlier, right, about every moment being precious, like everything couldn't have been as like rosy colored eyeglasses as it sounds, right? There had to have been some kind of challenge or something that also motivated you from behind to know that like every moment is precious, seize this opportunity. Did you have anything like that going on
Yeah.
at any point in your life?
No, that's a good point. You're very perceptive. Yeah. In childhood, right, my senior year of high school, I was very big into football. The captain of our team, Kevin Dowling, we were practicing in the summer. He had heat exhaustion, so he fainted on the football field
Oh
in
my goodness.
practice. We took him into the pool to cool him off, and then he went to the hospital to get checked up. Within 2 weeks, his liver failed, his kidney failed. He had a kidney replacement. He died the day of our first game senior year. So that was a
Oh,
huge,
gosh.
huge event in my life to just to remind me, dude, you gotta appreciate everything you've got. So that kind of catapulted me into my senior year with so much passion. And we made it to the state championship, and there was this whole thing of that. At the
Wow.
end of my senior year of high school, one of my mom's best friends in our suburb, we had kids kind of the same age. I have three sisters. They had, you know, three girls and a boy too. And the youngest girl had a lot of health defects and learning disabilities, not Down syndrome, but similar. She had a back brace on until she was 13. And, you know, she was slower learning, but also very full of love and very full of life. And she fell asleep on her the day before her 17th birthday and never woke up. So that was the summer after my senior year of high school. So again, huge person in my life who I always loved being around, who showed so much love, passes away tragically and instantaneously in her sleep. And she had a hole in her heart. I think that was part of it. But that was just a massive event in my life. And this is all before college. That
Yeah.
kind of just reminded me that none of us have that much time. So you better do something that you love. And then the last event that really did it for me was in college, my senior year. You know, in senior year, everybody's having a good time. They're ready to go off into their life. I was actually diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma. So I had lymphoma my senior year of high school, which was crazy because I'm doing my final exams and I'm also doing radiation and the surgeries to get this removed. And
Oh,
it was scary, you know, that moment, you know, it was just a bump. You know, you have a lymph node, and I just had a bump there. And so when I came home for a break, my mom's like, well, let's just see it biopsied. And you get it biopsied, and then I go back to school. Didn't think much of it. I'm invincible. I'm 22.
yeah.
And I get a call like, you know, a week later, my mom's crying, my sister's freaking out. And I didn't know I didn't have time to think about it. It was too much. And so getting through that was a huge part of me. Luckily, it all worked out and the radiation worked, but it
Yeah.
was intense and scary as a senior going into it. So I feel like in these transition periods, like senior of high school into college, college into my life, there's been like really poignant reminders of you better appreciate what you're doing because you don't have much time. So you better make it count. And I think those have been huge moments for me to realize the value of life and the value of relationships and the value of love, to be honest, like really having deep relationships with people, not just, hey, we're buddies, we go out drinking or we party. It's like telling people about who you are and your heart and what you want out of life and what you're afraid of. And so I think those have been the biggest things that, have shaped me. But, and I appreciate the question because you're right. It sounds like a rosy story with Tapster and everything's worked out. It definitely hasn't. It was hard, permitting is hard. Getting a crowd is hard. Sometimes your staff is really hard to get on board. And sometimes, there's people that come in the bar that don't appreciate it, that are, that make you feel like, what am I doing? COVID happening, pushing me back for a year, just, really killing my momentum and stuff like that. And just trying to stick with it and realizing I kind of always have this mindset that no matter how much I have it, like how much I might be frustrated, there is at the very least 20 million people that have it so much worse than me. And that's a really low number. But I think that mindset has always been in the back of my mind that no matter what I'm doing, I'm better off. Like I have food, I have a place to stay, I have friends that I love, my family. So I feel like with that mindset, which I think was bred in me from my dad being an immigrant, as well as going to the high school I did, has made me just appreciate my life and everything. So it has been tough spots, but that's a really good question. I appreciate you asking me that.
And thank you for sharing your heart, because the journey wasn't all roses. But during each of those events, the valleys as well as the peaks, you were focused on getting the most out of those moments, making every moment precious, whether it's with your friends, having a drink, with your family, traveling. Every moment was indeed precious to you, and you squeezed out of life, right? In many ways. If we could take anything from this conversation, I hope our listeners will take this to heart. I know I'm one of the folks, Roman, that's always on to the next thing, making it hard to be fully present. My grandchildren have changed some of that for me, where I'm learning to be more fully engaged, and boy, does it make a difference. There's no doubt. So thank you for sharing your heart and inspiring each of us. So I want to make sure that folks that want to learn more about you and learn more about the Tapster opportunity can do so. How would they get hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. The easiest way is through our website. It's tapstertastingroom.com. And you can reach out to any location. I get all the emails, so you can reach out to me. I'm also on LinkedIn, Roman Maliszewski. And I'm sure the spelling is intense, but if you look up Roman Tapster, you'll see my LinkedIn.
That's how I look through it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, there's not too many Romans doing Tapster, so that helps. But yeah, I love meeting new people and talking to whoever's interested, and I'm excited about doing this franchise kind of growth period, because I can't wait to meet people who get the brand and want to be excited and get behind it. I really think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it, and I really appreciate your time, and I really haven't been this open with other people on podcasts. So I don't know what you did, but you really like made me. Oh, I wasn't ready for this on what is today, Tuesday? I wasn't ready to open up my heart. So whatever you're doing, just keep doing it, because you made it very comfortable to share myself with you, and I didn't feel like you were gonna judge me or take advantage or use me as some prop, and that means a lot to me. You're genuine people, and that means a lot.
Aw.
And that's our whole purpose. Hey, girls are good at this kind of stuff, getting guys to open up,
It's true. I have 3 sisters, so I get it. No brothers.
Yeah.
I respect, a lot of respect.
Yeah. Well, and the show, as those of you that have been listening for the last 4 years now, is about getting personal. People want to know the founder, right? They want to know his or her heart. The business they're going to learn about because of your passion and the purpose that you are living out day by day. So we really appreciate you being so open and transparent with us. Tracy, I'm going to toss it to you for some final words, girl.
Okay, first of all, I can't believe time is up. I cannot. I was like, what? How did this time go by so fast? That's number one. Number two is I'm sorry for bringing up some negative memories, but I have to tell you that, like, when our audience listens, right? And I just don't want them to think like, oh, that's a person who has it all together. They have the golden touch. They can do it, but I can't. Like, there are so many people out there who admire you and who would want to do what you did and follow your formula. So I just love the fact that you shared so much with us and the vulnerabilities as well, because it's not easy to be vulnerable. Personally, I hate vulnerability, but I know I have to, be in that space sometimes to connect with people and to get, my needs or whatever it is. But again, we just really appreciate you. We appreciate having you on the show and you sharing. I personally appreciate your brain and your heart. And I think it's a beautiful combination, that business mindset along with that ability to connect with anyone, anywhere in the world, on any level. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you for who you are and who you show up as.
Love it.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. This
So,
has been great.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the things that I wish we would have spent even more time on, and maybe we'll have you back for another show, is the community aspect of what you are doing, is pulling people together, not just to drink beer, but to build relationships over a period of time, and at the same time be physical and engaged. I think that's a beautiful part of your business plan. My brother, who went to Princeton, lives in Philadelphia. I'm going to tell him all about you, and he's a beer connoisseur. So I'm going to have to make the introduction.
Please do.
His name is Daniel Paul Morrison. He's a pastor at a church in Huntington Valley. So I'll make sure to make the introduction.
I can't wait. I look forward to it.
I know, it'll be fun. Hey, you're good at connecting. We'll see what happens.
You never know. Yeah.
So thank you to the rest of you listening in today to the Franchised Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forge. Make sure to like, comment, share Roman's interview. You will indeed inspire others. And of course, we'll see you next week on another podcast.